The next step in our process of assembly is the installation of the steering column. The column has to be modified to fit, and it will vary with whichever column you select. We've chosen the iDidit Classic unit because it seems to be the best for our uses. Hopefully it will be for yours as well. It all begins at the steering racks, which, if you recall, we showed you how to install that in a previous exercise. To get started, we have to install the steering joint, which is appropriate for the rack that you use. In this case, it's a Mustang 28 18 spline, 9/16 28 spline onto the end of the column. All the other work is going to be done on the other side of the firewall. What has to be done is a stub has to be made to extend through the firewall. The short stub that you see hooked onto the universal joint is what has to be determined. We've already determined ours, but we will now show you the process of how you determine yours. As you can see, the stub goes between the pedals, which were installed temporarily just for the purposes of establishing where the universal joint goes. It goes between the pedals and up high. What you would have to go through a couple of iterations to determine how long that stub should be. That's approximately right there. Now the next step is the preparation of the steering column. The steering column has to be cut to a prescribed length. If you use the classic column, we will tell you to cut it at a length of 22 inches from the end of the column, which the steering wheel goes, to a point down on the column. That can be determined by the green tape that's put there. This column has been cut at that point and that silver end removed. When you remove that end, inside there is a bushing. The bushing has to be removed, and you can discard the other part of the column, and now the bushing has got to go into the shortened column. It's simply inserted and tapped in with a mallet or a hammer. It's a tight fit. Okay. Now, the next step is going to be shortening the rod which you see extending out of the column, but you don't know how long that is. So the first thing you do is install the column in its cradles or its retainers. One has already been installed temporarily, and we'll show you this in a minute. The lower support. The upper support is going through holes that are already provided for you in the kit pieces and parts that you'll get. Now at this point, you slide the column down into the universal joint, and keeping in mind this universal joint and that stub have been predetermined in length. Now at this point, the column is inserted into the universal joint, but however, it's too long. So what is the appropriate length? Well, the column hub should remain about 2 1/2 inches from the plate that you see it's attached to. But as you can see, it needs to go down further. There is a mark on the column there, which is the 2 1/2 inch mark. Taking a measuring tape and measuring from that mark to the plate where the column is attached tells you how much you have to cut off of the column. In this case, it's about 3 inches, but you can measure it accurately after you get yours all set up. When that dimension is achieved, what you do is remove the column, take it over to a vise, wrap the column up pretty so it won't get scratched, and carefully cut off the stub end of the column so that now when you insert it down into the extension, or the steering extension going into the universal joint, the column will find itself properly positioned at that plate. That dimension is there for a very important reason. That's where your dashboard is, and you won't know that until you actually put the body on the car. That's why all of these connections are left loose and temporary. For instance, the lower connection is clamped in place, but you'll notice there are two locator holes that when you do get your column in place, it can move back and forth to refine the position between the pedals. Up here on the top, there is a lag screw on the bottom of that plate, and once you get your body on, you can take that lag screw loose, move the column left and right to achieve a proper centering on the gauges, and then either re-drill the hole in the bottom, or you can even weld it if you happen to have a welder. It's a nice convenient tool. The last gesture will be when the body's on. If we have measured accurately, the distance between the dash and the hub of the column should be about 1/2 inch. If it's too much, you go right back down to the end of the column and you cut off another amount, whatever it deems to be, to bring it down to about 1/2 inch. With all of that done, your column is now installed, all of the locating points are made, and all you need now is to make those final determinations and permanently bolt and or weld these connections so you'll have a solidly mounted column. The pedal assembly and the booster are temporarily there just for the purposes of establishing where the steering extension goes.